The North Lake Mall in Charlotte was bustling with activity that July afternoon. Lines of eager fans snaked through the main corridor, all waiting for a few seconds of attention from the man seated behind the table, decorated with the Golden State Warriors logo. Stephen Curry, wearing a navy blue polo shirt and a discreet cap, genuinely smiled at each person who approached, dedicating individual time despite the seemingly endless line. "Who should I make this out to?" he repeatedly asked, maintaining the same enthusiasm for the 100th fan as he had shown for the first. Charlotte wasn't just another city on Curry's promotional tour. It was his home, where he had grown up running through the corridors of Charlotte Christian School and dreaming of following in his father Del Curry's footsteps. These autograph sessions in his hometown always had a special flavor. While chatting with a young fan about shooting techniques, something caught his peripheral attention. A tall man, about 35 years old, was waiting patiently in the middle of the line. There was something strangely familiar about him, in the way he tilted his head, in his restrained smile. Curry felt a pang of recognition that he couldn't quite place. 20 minutes later, the man reached the table. "Hey, Steph, it's been a while, hasn't it?" The voice instantly unlocked an avalanche of memories. Curry stood up abruptly, ignoring protocol. "Marcus? Marcus Johnson?" The man smiled, revealing the same dimple on the left side that Curry remembered so well. They had been inseparable throughout elementary school and part of high school until Del Curry was transferred to another team, taking the family away from Charlotte. "The one and only," replied Marcus, extending his hand. Curry ignored the hand and pulled his friend into a hug. "My God, how long has it been? 15 years?" 16, but who's counting? The security guards exchanged concerned glances at the break in protocol, but Curry made a discreet signal indicating everything was fine. As he pulled away from the hug, he noticed details his initial excitement had hidden. Marcus's face was thinner than it should be. His simple clothes showed signs of wear, and there was a shadow of worry behind his smile. "How long are you staying in town? Can we talk when this is over?" "I have another hour here," responded Curry, checking his watch. "Wait until the end. We need to catch up." After the autograph session, they found a quiet cafe on the 3rd floor of the mall. Between cups of coffee and teenage memories, Marcus revealed his journey. The scholarship at Davidson College that abruptly ended with a knee injury, the temporary jobs, and finally, his current work. "I manage the community food bank in Davidson, in our old neighborhood," he explained, stirring his coffee distractedly. "But things aren't easy. We might close in 2 months if we don't find more resources." "Close? How many people depend on you?" "More than 400 families weekly," replied Marcus, showing photos on his phone of smiling children receiving food. "Many of these children only have proper meals thanks to donations." Marcus's phone rang. An emergency at the food bank required his immediate presence. "I have to go, Steph. It was great seeing you." "Wait," Curry stopped him. "Can I visit the place tomorrow?" "Seriously?" "Sure. We open at 8. After Marcus's departure, Curry remained alone at the table, contemplating the photos his friend had shown him. Smiling children in the same streets where he had grown up, privileged and protected. While his life had followed an upward trajectory of fame and success, that community struggled with problems invisible to the spotlight. He took a final sip of coffee, now cold, and made a silent promise to himself. His visit to the food bank would be just the beginning. The next morning, Curry drove his rented SUV through the streets of Davidson, moving away from the tourist and commercial areas. Following Marcus's instructions, he entered a neighborhood that, despite its geographic proximity, seemed light years away from the well-maintained university campus that made the town known. The food bank occupied an old building supply warehouse. The faded sign, Davidson Community Center, hung precariously over the entrance. He was surprised to see that, even with 2 hours before the official distribution, a line was already forming on the sidewalk. Entire families, lonely, elderly people, some mothers with baby carriages. He parked in the back, and Marcus greeted him at the service entrance. "Welcome to our headquarters," he said with a smile, despite his evident dark circles. "Sorry we don't have coffee to offer. The coffee maker broke last week." The interior revealed itself as a study in obstinate organization in the face of scarcity. Metal shelves, clearly second-hand, contained meticulously organized products in categories. A dozen volunteers moved in silent synchrony, preparing packages for distribution. "Our team," introduced Marcus. "Nobody receives a salary. Ellen over there works as a nurse on the night shift and comes straight here. Hector is retired and coordinates our logistics. Sarah is a student at Davidson College and organizes university donations." Curry immediately noticed the precarious infrastructure. A single refrigerator making an alarming noise, the roof showing obvious signs of leakage, some lights remaining off to save electricity. "Can you store fresh foods?" he asked, observing the uneven proportion of canned items and packages in relation to fruits and vegetables. "When the refrigerator works," Marcus responded pragmatically. "We get donations of fresh produce, but without adequate refrigeration, we need to distribute them the same day." Despite the evident difficulties, the environment exuded dignity. Colorful drawings decorated the walls, children's thanks in irregular strokes. A mural of photos showed community events, volunteer celebrations, success stories. When the doors opened, Curry naturally integrated himself into the team. Marcus assigned him to the canned goods station, teaching him the system. 2 cans of vegetables, 1 protein, and 1 fruit per family, depending on availability. "Mr. Curry?" An African-American woman of approximately 40 immediately recognized him. "What are you doing here?" "Helping a little. I'm Stephen," he responded, extending his hand instead of offering autographs. "Darlene," she introduced herself. "My kids won't believe it when I tell them." While separating items for her, Curry learned her story. A single mother of 3, working as a nursing assistant during the day and a cleaner at night. Even with 2 jobs, her salary barely covered rent and bills. The food bank was the difference between complete or partial meals for her children. Later, he met Mr. Wilson, a 70-year-old military veteran who, despite his own precarious situation, always set aside part of his quota for bedridden neighbors. "Serving is an honor, son, not a burden," he said, while explaining why he carried 2 separate bags. In the middle of the afternoon, Marcus announced what seemed to be routine. "Folks, we have to close for today. We're out of supplies." Several families were still waiting in line. The frustration was visible, but nobody protested, just nods of understanding and promises to return next week. After closing, Marcus invited Curry for a tour of the neighborhood in his rusty Chevrolet. "I want to show you how things have changed since we were kids." The tour revealed a transformed community. The small supermarket where they used to buy sodas after basketball games was closed, with boards on the windows. The convenience store on the corner displayed exorbitant prices for low-quality processed foods. "Food desert," explained Marcus. "There are no supermarkets within a 3-kilometer radius. For those who depend on public transportation, that means hours of travel just to buy fresh food." Curry silently observed the same streets he had traversed in childhood, now marked by systemic neglect. Children still played on the same courts where he had developed his love for basketball, but the surroundings had changed drastically. Back at the food bank, he accompanied the volunteers closing the place. When Marcus turned the key in the lock, Curry was already on the phone. "Jerry? Cancel my commitments for the next few days. I'm in Charlotte, and I'll be staying longer than planned. We have work to do here." The presidential suite at the Westin Charlotte quickly transformed into an improvised office. Curry had removed the decorative furniture to make room for a large conference table. Maps of the city, statistical graphs about food insecurity, and project proposals covered the walls, held up with adhesive tape that would certainly leave marks. Something his assistant assured would be adequately compensated in the bill. "I can't believe you actually canceled the advertising campaign in Los Angeles," commented Jerry, his agent, while organizing documents. After 14 years working together, he knew how to recognize when Curry was immovable. "But I admit this is different." "Different how?" asked Curry, without shifting his gaze from the financial spreadsheet he was analyzing. "Different in the sense of being real. It's not just another celebrity foundation with your name stamped on gala events. The small assembled team included experts in community development, nutrition, and fundraising, all summoned urgently. At the center of discussions, always present, was Marcus. Curry had been emphatic. "Nothing will be decided without the approval of those who truly know the needs of this community." The first measure was immediate, a personal transfer from Curry that would guarantee the food bank's operation for the next 6 months. When Marcus began to express gratitude, Curry interrupted him. "This is just a temporary band-aid, not the solution. We need to create something sustainable." The following days were intense. Meetings with local business people revealed both allies and skeptics. "Frankly, Mr. Curry, what's the return on investment in a neighborhood like Davidson East?" questioned a real estate developer during a strategic lunch. Curry's response, polite but firm, underlined his new mission. "Not everything is measured in quarterly dollars." Agricultural producers in the IVCD region were contacted to establish direct relationships, eliminating intermediaries and ensuring fresher food at accessible prices. Municipal authorities, initially reluctant, became more receptive when they realized the media reach the project was gaining. The video that went viral, Curry unloading boxes from a donation truck under torrential rain, divided opinions on social networks. While many admired his commitment, skeptical voices questioned, "Just another celebrity using poverty as a marketing tool." It was during a particularly difficult afternoon, after a frustrating meeting with potential investors, that Marcus suggested a break. "Let's take a walk. I know exactly where to go." The abandoned basketball court at Davidson East Middle School remained recognizable, despite the hoops without nets and the cracked concrete. There, sitting on the faded bleachers, Marcus finally expressed what bothered him. "Steph, I deeply appreciate all of this, but what happens when you return to your life? When training starts? When the cameras turn to other matters? These people have been disappointed before." Curry shot an imaginary ball. "You're right. And that's why we can't just reinforce the food bank. We need to create something that truly belongs to the community." That sincere conversation marked the reformulation of the project. No longer just an expanded food bank, but an integrated community nutrition center, combining food distribution with urban gardens, kitchens for professional training, nutritional education, and spaces for community development. The concept was innovative, but encountered bureaucratic obstacles when they tried to acquire a larger plot for expansion. At City Hall, after hours of technical discussions about zoning and licenses, a municipal employee dismissed the project as too ambitious for the budgetary reality. It was then that Curry, normally diplomatic, abandoned his controlled posture. Standing up, he addressed the assembled council directly. "I grew up playing basketball in the same streets that now need help. You're talking about budgets and zoning. I'm talking about children going to bed hungry 15 minutes from this building. If bureaucracy is more important than people, then maybe we're in the wrong meeting." The silence that followed preceded an emergency re-evaluation of possibilities. A week later, the land of an old deactivated school was designated for the project, with preliminary approval. In the empty parking lot after the news, Marcus looked at Curry with an indecipherable expression. "When I saw you at that autograph session, all I wanted was to reconnect with an old friend. I never imagined we'd get this far." Curry smiled, placing his arm over his friend's shoulder. "We're just getting started." Autumn painted Davidson's trees with golden and red tones, marking 6 months since that unexpected reunion at the mall. Where before there was only a deteriorated warehouse, now stood the Davidson Community Nutrition Center, a modern complex with a sustainable structure that preserved elements of the old food bank at its heart. Vans from national broadcasters lined the main street. Reporters adjusted microphones and cameras, all waiting for the arrival of the NBA star who had financed a significant part of the project. Curry, however, chose a discreet entrance through the back, where staff finalized the inaugural preparations. "We did it," said Marcus, now wearing a blazer over a t-shirt, a combination that reflected the new professional phase without abandoning his essence. A badge identified him as Executive Director, Nutrition and Community Foundation. The two walked through the space, observing how each detail materialized. The vision developed during those intense days at the hotel. The old warehouse had transformed into a marketplace, organized like a conventional supermarket, allowing families to select their own food with dignity. An elderly lady pushed a cart, consulting her list while choosing fresh vegetables, an absolute contrast to the lines for receiving predetermined packages. "The industrial kitchen is in full operation," explained Marcus, showing the space where dozens of young people received professional training. "We've already graduated our first class of kitchen assistants. 5 of them were hired by downtown restaurants. On the terrace, vertical hydroponic systems maximize the available space, producing leafy vegetables in a continuous cycle. Children from a nearby school participated in a germination class, their small hands carefully transplanting seedlings under supervision. The multi-purpose rooms are occupied every night," continued Marcus, as they passed by spaces where posters announced workshops on financial and nutritional education and professional support. "The mentoring program already has a waiting list." The outdoor area included a modern playground adjacent to a completely refurbished basketball court, where teenagers practiced shots under the guidance of a volunteer coach. During the official ceremony, Curry insisted that Marcus occupy the central place on the stage. "I'm here as a supporter, not as the protagonist," he whispered, retreating to the second row as his friend approached the microphone. Marcus's speech moved the audience by sharing not only impressive statistics from the first months of operation, but also by revealing that representatives from 5 other cities had already visited the center, interested in reproducing the model. Behind the scenes, after the formalities, Curry gathered the team to announce that his new sponsorship contract would include a clause guaranteeing continued support to the emerging network of community centers. "And I'm not alone in this," he added. 6 other NBA players have already expressed interest in developing similar projects in their cities. Among the crowd circulating through the center, Curry recognized a familiar face, Darlene, the mother he'd met in the food bank line. Now she wore the uniform of the community cafe, confidently managing the operation. Her teenage son guided younger children in the mentoring program, while her daughter enthusiastically participated in a nutrition class. When the last visitor departed and the team was finishing the cleanup, Curry and Marcus sat alone on the basketball court, illuminated only by security lights. Like teenagers again, they shared old stories while alternately shooting the ball. "You know," reflected Curry, as the ball slid perfectly through the hoop, "some victories are bigger than any championship." Marcus smiled, observing the horizon of his transformed community. "And this is just the first quarter of the game,"